this is where we got to get like women, women and men now are really loud on social media. They try and like ruin your life in whatever way they can. It's like this.
Oh yeah, I can relate, bro.
Yeah, me too. So basically, what determines being a good dad and a bad dad on a social media war may not be in the courts. So if guns are legal, it may not be an issue. But this also swings the other way. Like you might think, like driving with your kid in the car and you're recording a video or something, and that goes online, like that is not good parenting because you're operating a camera while operating a vehicle while a child is in it. These types of things come up all the time. And if a woman, so man, I hear this story over and over again. I can't talk specifically about what my clients have gone through, but they'll have stuff thrown at them. They'll have knives pulled on them. They'll be cut with knives. They'll have guns pulled on them. They'll have all this sort of stuff. And sometimes that will go to criminal court, as it should, right? I mean, it's assault with a deadly weapon, or it's some sort of, attack or assault or these types of things. Same thing goes with STDs. If a woman gives you an STD, like a lot of times this happens in cheating, and they don't tell you, or they give you misinformation, in many states and counties, it could be considered sexual assault. But if a guy does that, if a guy gets angry, throws something, it's on camera. And like a lot of times with my clients, it's on camera. It's on camera where a woman is doing this to them. It's on camera. It's somehow documented. There's enough good witness testimony. Then that guy will get a protective order or a restraining order. And they're different. A protective order is much worse. Okay. Now, the other thing too is it could go to criminal, or it could go to some sort of civil thing. A criminal is much worse. I actually had a protective order on me. I had a criminal protective order put on me. I didn't get to see my kids for 5 years.
What'd you do?
It was fucking nothing, man. I was raising kids in a chaotic environment.
Yeah.
And I was not smart. Like, I was, in the actual story of it, there were multiple claims made against me that had to do with violence or sexuality and all this sort of stuff. Here I am as a dating coach. Of course, I was also doing MMA at the time, and like, everybody kind of knew it, and these sorts of things. Teaching jiu-jitsu classes.
So they painted you as a violent womanizer.
Dude, the best right? Is I got a grand jury trial, and the prosecutor, so it went to criminal, which is bad. Like criminal, they both suck, but you're really fucked because if CPS or DCFS sues you, it's 51% needs to decide whether you did it or not.
Yeah.
Criminal, you're at 1%. You have no chance. Like they are designed to prosecute their cases. So once it goes there, you have a huge uphill battle.
Did the grand jury return a true bill against you or no?
The grand jury basically immediately said, we don't believe him, and let's move on to the...
All right, so you never got indicted.
Dude, check this out. In the grand jury, as I'm being interviewed, they're like, oh, so you're a practitioner of jiu-jitsu and you teach jiu-jitsu classes. And so when you used a ligature against your son, does that come from your weapons training? And I was like, there's no weapons in jiu-jitsu. What the hell? So I have this piece of paper, and she pulls it out. She pulls out like a piece of paper of what are the list of weapons that are used in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, you are wrong. And I didn't know. This is, again, like, I did not know. Like, I thought, it was going to be all fair, and this is ridiculous. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. You're telling me this is not used in jiu-jitsu. Like knives and swords and all the sort of stuff she was talking about were not used. And we got in this big argument about it. That argument, I don't know what screwed me over in it, but the grand jury, as soon as I left, immediately ruled that they were going to step forward with the trial, which is horrible, man. Devastated me.
Oh, so you did get indicted?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
so you got a true bill against you. Shit. So you got charged. And then...
I got charged, and then I took a plea. And in the plea, we could go over this with like many cases that I've had. Like, a plea is basically like you have no money.
Yeah, you just plead to a lesser thing.
Are you going to go
trial,
to a sex offender prison as a abuser and for 6 months, 2 years, or whatever it is?
What the hell?
So if you go to, it depends again on the state, but if you go to a state jail or a federal prison or whatever, or it wouldn't be a federal prison, but if you go to a some
state jail.
Yeah.
State prison. Yeah.
So if you go there, you go to the ones that are for abusers and all this stuff.
Really?
It's pretty fucked up.
So you go to because of allegedly domestic violence.
But domestic violence.
So you're
is
telling
different.
me that happens to you, but Diddy's free? Come on, bro.
Yeah.
What's going on right now, man? Damn. No Diddy, by the way.
The guys in my group would love you.
Yeah. But sorry. So you didn't get to finish. So they ended up indicting you for what? Like
It's injury to a child.
Injury to a child is what they try to hit you with.
Yeah.
And then you took a plea deal. What did you plead it down to?
No, it was still a plea to injury to a child, but the sentence was no jail time. And it was like probation for 4 years, and you didn't get to see your kids for 4 more years. It had already been a year, and man, it's crazy. But I'll tell you this:
off of a lie that she made.
Yes, and later on,
she alleged like you hit one of the kids.
No, choked one of the kids. Later on,
wow.
What happened was, now check this out, man. So, to tell my story in this, and this is what Owen actually wanted to cut out at least a little bit of, and the guys in my group stories are far worse. But so then I get married, have an amazing relationship, awesome, obviously different woman, model, like beautiful, like everything you could imagine, right? And so we split up, and when we split up, she in Texas you can record. It's a single party record. So I started recording everything when she was acting weird and doing all this stuff. And she said, if multiple times on recording, if you challenge me on anything, if I don't call the shots, then I'm going to say that you abuse the kids and use your old case against you.
Wow.
And man, like, I'll tell you this, like at this point, like after that, the first case happened, I started talking to lawyers and educating myself on stuff and whatnot, and then working with guys who came to my group on this sort of thing. At the time, I wasn't really like targeting coaching on custody stuff, but I was like, man, I just got totally fucked.
Yeah.
And
because you've been through it.
Yeah. So I knew what to do. Hired a lawyer right away. We deposed her, and in the deposition, it basically killed any case she had. And actually, in that case, I had the opportunity at the end of that deposition to file charges against her in multiple areas. Could have got full custody of the kids like instantly. Could have shown that tape to a judge, and it would be a no-brainer, an immediate temporary protective order.
Yeah.
She'd be on her back foot. But I was like, man, kids need moms and dads.
Yeah.
And it's a trip because a lot of the dudes in the manosphere were like, what, why are you doing that? Well, my fight is for my kids. It's not for some political thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not to shame.
It's not to
somebody.
exact revenge on her. It's for the kids to have the best situation.
But here's the thing, man, and this is going to sound crazy because my life is my life. My interaction with my kids and their mothers is my life. And the first mother of my kids came to testify for me, and her testimony was that the courts overreacted. And
the one that that got you in trouble with the injury.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she actually came on your behalf later on.
She came on my behalf, and it was a
crazy world.
And let's just think about this, right? If you don't stop somebody who's acting crazy, this was one of in my 2019 case, the one where I did the depositions and came out on top. I had 3 goals, and afterwards, my attorney was like, "Steve, let's get full custody. Let's go right now. Like, let's take this. How quick can you get the media off the tape and off the camera and get it in front of a judge? Let's go. Like, you could have full custody. It's an amazing story. Like, this is awesome. Let's go." And I was like, man, Ryan, what was our goal? And you're so fried, it's hard to think straight, but you got guys in your corner and all that sort of stuff. And we were outside the depositions, and he goes, or I told him, I said, hey, look, man, I wanted to get all false allegations just cleared off. I wanted fair visitation and all that sort of stuff set. And I wanted to calm her down and stop her from going crazy. Because people go crazy, man.
Yeah.
And one last thing, what I got from that was like, the first mother of my kids, we both acknowledged, like, we were idiots, man. I should have come in properly into the court to stop it. And she should have stopped whatever herself. And either way, you're going to have to come back to co-parenting.
Isn't that crazy that the woman that you first were with, your first child mother, helped you with your second child mother?
It's crazy.
But you know what I think was? She hated her more than she hated you, probably.
No, I think what it is, and this is one of those things that actually I'm really proud of talking about it, because it's a real story of people going through stuff and not a theoretical
And
thing.
thank you for sharing your story, by the way. Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Slow.
The thing with that is that you see how much it affects the kids. Like, I was sitting there in those 5 years going like, man, I'm so fucked. I can't believe how bad I got fucked. You lose all this money. You're devastated. I mean, like, I've seen really fucked up shit in my entire life. I've seen the saddest things. I've watched my friends die. I've come, like, clients of mine who are saying they're going to kill themselves, and you get the calls. I used to save their message on my phone, and you show up and they're dead. And I've seen really sad stuff, but nothing is as sad as finding out you're not going to see your kids for 2 more years, 5 more years.
So I'm guessing she made the allegation that you like harmed your children, right? Erroneously. And then you ended up taking a plea deal because you couldn't fight it. Maybe not the money for the lawyers and everything else like that. Like, was this a situation where she was angry at you and made up, like, kind of, how do I say, sensationalized events to just get you in jail, and then she couldn't reverse anything, and then ended up like where you got fucked at then? Like, how did this even, what are the mistakes that you think you made in that first situation?
Yeah.
That the guys can learn from?
No, massive mistakes. And let's bring it back to, like, guys as a whole, because it paints a better picture.
Yeah.
In that moment where you're accused of something, like, don't talk shit. I would get a lawyer. I would familiarize, because
you didn't get a lawyer until later on?
I did, but I talked to the police first. And sometimes it's okay to talk to the police, right? It could work in your favor. But if there's a charge, and there were multiple allegations of abuse that had happened before, so I had talked to CPS, I had talked to attorneys, or I'm sorry, the cops or whatever in previous cases, but they got thrown out. So I went in there thinking I knew what was up. Well, if you fuck up once and you think you know what's up, you fuck up. And the fact of the matter is, and I'll say this just in her defense, because we both raise awesome kids together, is that, man, we were both nuts. We were both nuts. In that whole situation, it's so horrible, but even if you talk to the guys in my group who get accused of the same thing and get run through the ringer in it, it forces you to be a better parent. You go to parenting classes, you look at the law, you look at how the law determines this, you look at the psychological damage it causes kids. Like I said, I thought I was the big victim in it, and I was. But when I got to reintegrate with my kids, who are awesome, they're amazing.
Does she regret, like, doing that? Like
I think everybody does. Yeah.
So she thought, like, oh, I'm just gonna mess with him, and then she didn't realize how much she had really.
But that takes years.
Damn.
Like, of all the cases that I work with guys, they're not going to change their minds for 2 years.
So she lied on you. You couldn't see your kids for 5 years.
Yeah.
And you were still able to make peace with her and still co-parent to this day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, man.
Because a lot of guys will never forgive.
That's some good restraint
for that.
Man,
that takes, like, some real emotional control. I mean, that's just crazy, because, like, she lied on you, and you know how they say how half knows fear like a woman scorn, right? And she's in her head like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get back at him, whatever, and then she doesn't realize once you get the wheels of justice going, it's very difficult to walk it back.
Yeah, and there's so much to it. I'd say psychologically as well. Like, if you spin a lie and you get power, like, what does that do to a person? I mean, you see that every day with politics. It's the craziest thing.
That's wild, man.
But
I think after hearing this whole episode, the chat, ourselves in a room, we'll think twice about having kids with the wrong person.
Man, no. Look, kids are awesome, and being a father is an amazing, amazing thing. And I'll say this, and this is one thing that I tell guys in the group when they're going through this, because you're devastated over your kids. Like, if your kid gets hurt, if your kid is damaged, you want to whoever's damaging that kid, right? That is the drive, and everybody can relate with that. But when it's psychological, not everybody takes it as seriously.
Yeah.
And when that happens, man, you lose it, and you then are dealt a different card in life. So you have to find something that is good. You destroy yourself. Like, you end up like the dead guy who commits, becomes a drug addict. It's like, if you die, that could be better for that man than living just in pain and suffering and is a lesser man for the rest of his life. For the kids, it's please stay alive. But my message to everybody is like, no, man, if you have bad stuff happen, make yourself better. And at first, when you're going through this, you don't want to hear that. Like, I'm not going to say that to somebody right away. But your kids now have a destiny that they have to fight for, and it is their problem, and be the strongest man. Like, I was a fool. I was weak, man. You know, I was strong in some ways. I was good at holding a frame, good at all that sort of stuff. But how can you get right with yourself mentally, spiritually, at your core? How can you bring that to have stability? Because when those kids come back, they don't want to see a broken father.
Yeah.
They don't want to see a man that is hurt, or that is the tale that was told about him as being a deadbeat or whatever. And I think that that's so important, you know.
So what would you say are like some of the mistakes that people can learn from in your first situation, like that they need to avoid immediately? So
Right.
you said talking to the police, talking with CPS that was used against you later on. What else?
Well, you need to understand the charge.
Yeah.
So that's what you got to understand right away. And you need to know how to find lawyers at that time, because the law in there is more complicated. It's not like this simple thing. Like, if you fuck up once and it could go to criminal, you want to know everything. So you have to hire the right lawyer. You can't just hire a family law attorney. You have to if it's criminal, you have to hire an attorney that is a criminal attorney.
Yeah.
You also have to be able to hire a CPS attorney if they're involved, or DCFS, whichever protective service is there. And it could be the same attorney, but you have to understand what the charges are and what the narrative of either, you know, the DA is trying to
Spin about you.
Yeah, or what CPS is trying to investigate. CPS is oversaturated, generally workers who, you know, they might love it, but a lot of them don't. High turnover. They see really horrible things. And I mean, man, it's easy for them to get it wrong. And they're overworked, have too many people on their caseload, social workers too. So it's easy to get something misfiled. It's easy for something to get signed off in the wrong way. Like, you have to have somebody who's familiar with that can look it over. So it's important.